It's time for the E-commerce Business Growth Podcast, the show where we talk about strategies that help you grow your online store. I'm your host, Jeff Welsh, and this week we have Mike Hudgens, my head web developer at Impact Results, and we're talking about conversion rate optimization. What is CRO, and why it's important to use with your online store. So don't go anywhere, stick around and enjoy the show. All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Today, I have at the podcast with us, Michael Hudgens. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hi. I prefer Mike.
Okay. There you have.
Yeah. How's it going, man?
Good. I'm doing well. Thanks for joining me today here on the podcast. I'm excited to have you and see where we can take it this time around.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, hey, everybody, just want to let you know, this is Jeff at Impact Results. I'm one of the co-founders and COO of our digital agency here. And just to give you some insight of who we are, Impact Results is a digital ad agency that focuses primarily on driving traffic via Facebook, YouTube ads, Google ads, all those fun things to our clients' websites to help them take the traffic that we're delivering and convert the prospects into customers. That's our specialty. That's what we're excellent at. Over the last several years, Impact has been able to help our clients generate over $10 million in sales for their various stores. And it's just something that we're super proud of, and we've worked really hard at the last couple of years. It's our passion to help, drive the right traffic to our clients' sites and things of that nature. Today, we have with us Michael Hudgens. Mike has been with us. Gosh, Mike, how long have you been at Impact at this point in time?
8 years. I believe, I will be hitting the 8-year mark. I started in September of 2014, and it is now, by the time September of 2022, if my math is correct, which it is, that would be 8 years since September.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Just so you guys know, Impact has been in existence for about 9 years, a little over 9 years at this point in time. So Mike has been a super dedicated and awesome team member for a very long time. I cannot remember this business without Mike at this point in time. He's just been such an integral part of everything that we've been through and built over the years. It's just awesome to have us. And Mike, tell us a little bit about what your current responsibilities are here at Impact. I know that's been an ever-evolving thing for your duration, but what is your current specialty at Impact?
So my focus is on conversion rate optimization. So I do that where I optimize websites to be as efficient as possible. But I'm also the director of client communications. So anytime a client needs to be communicated with in a specific way, just enforcing those internal policies and making sure that the customers are as happy as possible. So my job is I like to summarize with customer satisfaction and boosting everyone's results. Because as you said, like we do a lot of campaigns. And so my job is to inject steroids into those campaigns, and that is through CRO, but also I integrate the Facebook pixel. So I do that, and now it's referred to as the Conversions API. There used to be a different pixel. There used to be two. There was the Conversion pixel and the regular pixel. Then they depreciated the convert. So I've been doing that a long time, and the current iteration is in my opinion, the most difficult because it's server side. But yeah, I do that too. So I am like the driving force behind a lot of the results for the campaigns, and I feel like I boost them a lot. So yeah, just selling myself to you, you're my boss. So
that's well, so there you go, folks. That's his description of what Mike does, and he, like I said, he's an integral part of our team here that really, we all rely on heavily every single day, and he just does a magnificent job. But just to kind of give you a little bit more insight on Mike and his knowledge, I mean, he really initially came to us just kind of as a graphic designer and an intro level web designer. Is that correct, Mike? Does that
Yeah,
sound right?
yeah. And I sometimes look at that like portfolio that I gave that to you guys that like made you guys pay attention to me, and part of it was actually some video stuff. So it was like I had some color grading skills because of my design background. So I used to do a lot of video work in college, and I still do some but I'm just not nearly as good as like our pro video guy that we have. But I'm like probably second best that is in there in that regard. So I even do that sometimes with ads. So like I don't like to limit. So I like just being able to hop in and solve problems. So even though it's like not part of my like, whatever, if I have an extra second, I like making ads to split test against everyone else because I'm a competitive person too. And I like want my stuff to like outperform. So like I'll cheat and use my CRO like stuff that I learn on the website about the users and the customers to then make content that's going to outperform everybody else's content. Because like also like even Josh's sometimes, but most of the time it's everybody else's besides Josh because his content is so good. Like I feel like at some point you should have Josh on the podcast because some of his stuff, like for one of our clients that has the shirts where the animated. I don't want to say the client specifically, just in case, like because we haven't talked about it before the podcast.
Right.
But man, like his stuff looks like it could be on like Adult Swim or something. It's so good. And when I say that, it's because it's funny. It's like that's that brand, but he does it like in this. Anyways, okay, I'm going off the rails. I'm hyping up Josh. Sorry.
You can tell
Sorry.
Mike's. So this is an audio podcast. It's not a video podcast, and it probably always will be an audio podcast. But Mike's excitement and enthusiasm is kicking in high speed real quick, and he wants to get into the topic of the day. But as you can see, Mike has a various background and skill sets. What he also didn't mention too is that he also builds computers. So he's got a vast understanding of all things computers and marketing and storytelling and all this stuff, which is why he's at the top of the chain here on our team. So there you go. Michael Hudgens, he's been around for a while, the man, the myth, the legend. So I want to get closer into the topic of the day, and the real topic of the day is conversion rate optimization, as we like to refer to as CRO. But before we dive into that too much, let's just talk a little bit about where our successes have been in recent years, specifically the past 3-ish years, with our customers, and where we realized there was a definite need for customers who have online e-commerce stores. We realize, especially at a certain level, clients of a certain level, that there are people that have successes and failures with their online stores. Let's talk a little bit about some of the successes and failures that we see for people that have just maybe built a store for a year or so and gotten it to a certain level where we consider an ideal prospect. Can you give us some insight on some of the successful things we've seen people do and some things where they're just like failures and that they can improve upon?
Yeah, so can I ask one clarifying question on that? And
Absolutely.
that is this in regards to CRO, the service that I perform, or us in general as an agency?
Correct. Yeah, yes, in reference to CRO.
Okay.
Because that's the big topic of today, guys. We're really talking about CRO stuff.
So one thing that we have been very careful about as CRO is we actually have a 100% success rate. And that's because we only bring in clients for CRO that we are 100% sure that I can help. And the reason we do that is because like you can do that mathematically. You can take a look at how much traffic the website's getting, the conversion rate, all the different aspects of the website, and I can tell like for sure whether or not I can improve their conversion rate and like their overall revenue. So I do this analysis when Luke is in the prospecting phase, and I say no to a lot more people than I say yes to. And he likes that because he wants the CRO to be like a guaranteed win service because it's our highest ticket service. You know what I mean? Like never wants to be like, oh, like I'm 50-50 on this. If that's the case, then he might like sign somebody up for example, like social, because we're 100% confident on that. And then I'll do some CRO to like push them over the edge, but like not the dedicated CRO service. Like we call it internally CRO light when I do that. And sometimes we even teach other businesses how to do it as well. So there's a very like granular thing. So hopefully I fully answered that question. If you want me to tell you, oh no, I guess I didn't, because I didn't say specifically what I look for when I qualify. You want me to go into that next?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what I generally look for is a store that's making at least like 80,000, 50. We've done 150 and we were very successful with that. But between 80 and like infinitely higher, so 80 minimum. And also look for like, when I look at the web design, I look for obvious flaws. So that's another indication. Like if there's, other things I can do to their website. If I can come up with like 5 tests immediately within 30 seconds of seeing the site, and they're making that much, then I know I can help. I know for a fact, because the thing is like, say your conversion rate is 1% on your website, and it doesn't matter if it's actually like 4 or whatever, but like, let's just give this as an example. If I can get you on your website from 1% to 2%, then I double your revenue. And I don't even promise that. I don't even promise I'm going to double your revenue, because that's 80,000 worth of value every month. I don't need to do that for like, sure, it could happen. I don't have to do that for it to be a useful service, right? So if I can like increase somebody's, webs, like, conversion rate from 1% to 1.25%, that's a 25% revenue increase that they get to keep forever. So as long as they're like a sustainable business and they're making that kind of money, these small increases will for sure ROI based on what we charge to clients versus what they get back, because they get to keep that forever. This is a 3-month process. This isn't like an ongoing, like you pay us forever thing. When we do CRO, I do it for about 3 months and then I'm done. I'm like optimized. You can keep collecting user data after that, and you can like have some value, but that's not what we do. We just fully optimize the site and then we're done.
So real quick, let me just kind of roll back just to make sure that we answered my initial questions on like the failures of things, various aspects of people's websites.
Sure.
So you're saying that if we have a prospect, or we have somebody that has an online presence and already has a business that is generating revenue, if there are certain aspects of let's just say a product detail page, for example, aspects of that they have overlooked, maybe the images are not optimized, or maybe the copy is not developed well, or maybe there's a UI adjustment that can be made. Like I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like those are the type of things that, plus a list of many more that, maybe a lot of businesses don't understand are things that they should be looking for to realize that that's actually hurting their conversions and sales, correct?
Yeah. So what a great question. So basically, what people always imagine when I start talking about this service is I'm going to split test something trivial, like I'm going to make the add to cart button red now instead of blue or whatever, because red is like the attack color. No, that is not what it is. So what I like to do is measure the product page like you described as to like how does it serve the user. So for example, are all the unique selling points there? So one of the biggest things I've been doing in 2022 to refine the service is I've been asking post-purchase surveys. So I want to hear from people who have bought. So I'm going back to your question. I want to hear from people who have bought. So they'll tell me why they bought the product. And when I see those and those come in, I'll have hundreds of those responses. And then I'll say, this is not communicated on the product page. These people have been following the brand for decades or 5 years or 10 years, and they've consumed content around it. They've absorbed this thing, and they're telling me what they're associating. But for cold traffic, for a new user, that reason that those successful customers are buying, that's not conveyed on the product page. That's the first thing that I look for. And then I do also look for like UI things, like on mobile, does the add to cart button stick to the bottom of your phone, or like very specific things that are for sure wins in 99.9% of sites. Now I can determine at the beginning if it's not, but I'll skip that. So and also when people think copy, like when you were saying like, is the copy on the page good? My question isn't normally framed that way when I look at the page. It's what isn't conveyed to the user. Like if there's an FAQ there, is there a frequently asked question that it is not on the page that because people are very impulsive when they buy things. You can see it in the like in recordings from like Hotjar when you watch people interact with websites. People want to buy impulsively, and so if they scan for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and they don't see the answer to their question, they're not going to go look for it. Like most people won't just open up a new tab and Google it or whatever and research the product. So if I can determine what those objections are and deal with them effectively on the page, it's going to increase the conversion rate because less of those people will just close the tab, go do something else. And that's part of like remarketing on Facebook too, where you want to like send people back. And I've even done like splits where I've done a completely different web experience for people who are coming from a retargeting ad because we add like a UTM to it. So I'm going real advanced on that. But like think about that. Like what if your product page could look different depending on the part of the buyer's journey that your user's on? Like, can I give you a specific example? Because I'm still answering your question. So
yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
He's getting excited and he's going deep, folks.
Yeah. So this will probably relate to your business if you're like listening and you have like a pretty good size e-commerce store. But I'm going to give you a specific thing. So like let's pretend like somebody has a bunch of influencers. Let's pretend like it's like a concert or something, right? Like you're trying to sell tickets on your website for a concert, right? So what if you have tons of influencers that are linking over there and you're giving them a cut of the sales? So that means you're using a specific link. Say I'm an influencer and it's Mike Hudgens. So like my link might say Mike Hudgens on it so that way the Shopify store can track it. What if only people coming from my link, they actually see me on the page. They see me on the page endorsing the product. Right? But only when they come from my affiliate link. So what if I code in and have it so that different, like let's say you have 100 influencers and depending on the URL, the page loads differently. That conversion rate shoot up.
So your
conversion rate go up.
So you're saying by doing just that one test, because of the tracking URL, putting a graphic with you in it, promoting that product, in some ways could help the conversion, basically making somebody purchase a lot more probable than not.
In that example, I'm not an influencer, but in the example I am.
Oh, Mike, you're an influencer, all right.
Oh, Lordy. All right. I think I've posted in my entire life like 3 or 4 times to Instagram over like 6 years. So you still can't even scroll down on it. So...
Oh man. Well, that's super fascinating, man. So I imagine in your department, which, by the way, folks, we have multiple teams here at Impact. One of them is the web team, which obviously Mike is a part of. We also have
I run the web team actually.
You do. We also have a video team and a social media ad buying team as well, and a sales team too. But so what you're saying is that anytime that we have a new prospect or a customer, or if somebody wanted to go do this on their own, there's probably a whole list, like a checklist of items that you could look for that, any combination of them could make a significant difference in additional sales.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use a specific list like that. My process is a bit nuanced, but I'm not gonna lie. So like I am not a very process oriented guy. I don't like processes. You meet people that have different like preferences when they work. And me, I'm very much so like I like every single time we get a prospect, I might analyze it differently. But that being said, it makes it difficult to teach others, and that's why I handle all the prospects, because like, if it's not like a step 1, step 2, step 3 thing, then yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, but maybe not the answer you were looking for.
Well, I
But
get it. I just
there are some commonalities, but it's not a process. It's very much a nuanced thing.
right. No, I get it. I mean, everybody has different ways of attacking tasks and stuff. I imagine that there are other people on the team or out there would have a list of things to look for, but you've been doing this type of work for such a long time that it's almost like second nature for you to go and look at something and realize, oh my God, here's 6 things I can just start with this without even looking at a list. It's just like I come from a design background, right? Like, so, in the early days of Impact, I could look at something in a split second and tell you, oh my gosh, there's so many things here I could do differently that would make this much more visually appealing and communicate the message better than what it is.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of your skill set because you are an expert in this area.
And I'll give you a specific example as to when this came up. So like Luke gave me a prospect that he was like looking at, and I told him this is exactly how much we're going to be able to make for this client, like rough estimate. So when I say exactly, what I mean, like, this is the range. And we started working with them, and he used that to like structure their agreement like at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was starting to do the reports, it was accurate. So I gave him like the numbers and that was even with the Facebook campaign. That wasn't even like CRO, like my wheelhouse. So when I say I am confident 100% that like I can help a CRO client, or that like how much money we can generate for like Facebook, it's very like, I can predict what we're going to do, because they give me, a lot of prospects will give me the numbers, the information that I need to make that assessment, because they want they want me to be able to tell them whether they should go with us or not.
Well, of course, they want to make sure that their investment is a wise one and a successful one.
And usually if I just talk to somebody once or twice, like they get that, like, I have their best interest at heart, and I will tell Luke and them if I don't think they're a good fit. And I think that's what they both like. That's the reason I'm included in a lot of, even though I'm not a sales guy, that's why I'm in a lot of those sales calls, because it builds that immediate trust for the person, because I'm like this third party that's almost like unbiased towards whether we get the business or not.
Well, I think that's such a wise thing. Obviously, Luke's specialty is not that, and if you have a prospect or of a certain level that wants more detailed answers, or they want to be able to feel comfortable with the person that they're going to be working with.
True, because they're going to be working with me.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's a wise thing. It just gets you in there on a snippet of a call to if needed. Isn't always needed, but sure. I think that's a wise route to go. And there are other people on the team that do this work and are I guess I shouldn't say equally as skilled as Mike, because Mike is of a superior level, but definitely highly skilled in this area that assist. It's not just Mike here at the office working on everybody's websites, because that's just virtually not feasible. But cool. So I think we've gone over what CRO actually is, and to a certain extent, and what's involved. How important is it for people to actually focus on, when they get their online store to a certain level, how important is it for them to focus on this type of service, whether they actually hire it out to an agency or try to take it on themselves?
So it is so important, because it's guaranteed ROI. Like, if somebody meets those criteria that I just explained, with like their store is matured to the point where they're making between like 50 and 80 minimum per month, then it is guaranteed to ROI. Like, if somebody does the process correctly, it is a guarantee ROI, because of the scale of the numbers we're working at. It's a scientific process. Mm-hmm. So you take one variable, you change it, and then you measure the results of that change. And that's what CRO is. Like, you're following the scientific method. You are creating an experiment of, users. So 50% of people get this, 50% of people get that. You measure that, and then you make an unbiased decision based on that. And you keep doing that. You keep iterating, and like just based on like what it would cost for a developer, versus the scale of the store and the ROI from that. Even if it's a contractor and it's just like for a few months to optimize, it is guaranteed to ROI because it's more valuable than a website redesign even.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might continuously, it's very common for like, major e-commerce stores to redesign their website pretty often. But what they don't think about is testing everything about that redesign. You don't make decisions without like with just industry expertise. I always tell people like, yeah, I have I've been doing websites even longer than I've been working for you guys, like for fun, like in a non-professional level before I got here. And you don't just say, oh, I've been doing this for almost 10 years, so this is my opinion on what you should do with your website. I don't do that. And I think that's a vanity thing that like some people do. What I would rather do is come up with a hypothesis. This is what I think. This is what I think is better for you. And then I measure that and I prove it with data. Or I prove that I'm wrong and you're right, like as far as the client, if the client disagrees with me.
But
most of the time the client does agree with me though. I'll put common sense like things in there and they'll be like, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's run it.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So I think that what I'm hearing you say also, and to reiterate is that, really you kind of have to have a site to a certain level before you implement this type of production work into a site. You really can't like, oh, hey, I'm starting an e-commerce store today and I want to do CRO now. No, you actually have to have a solid presence online with a site that works and is converting sales before we implement things like practices like this, correct?
Yeah. I mean, people should follow certain principles to maximize like their potential of getting to that point, but there's no way to quantify it at that point. So at that point, and I can give specific examples for people at that level, but it's mainly just reducing clicks and friction as much as possible. What percentage of people see the add to cart button? You can still do that on your own. You can still measure like, okay, you know what the fold is? I'll explain it to the user, but like the fold means like when the website loads, something is above the fold if it is in the viewport when the page, if it's contained on the screen when the website loads. So if 100% of people see the add to cart button, that's an excellent thing. Versus like say it's a little further down and only 70% of people scroll to the point where they see the add to cart button. You're losing 30% of your traffic. Why? And you could argue if somebody, if that 30% of people that like if they're not even interested enough to scroll down to add to cart, then they're not going to buy. But see, that's an assumption you're making when you do that.
Right.
Why make that assumption when you could just code it in? Like what, you know what I'm saying? You see my reasoning. It's like, what detriment is that going to be to do that? So just following those sort of principles, website load speed, very important, right?
Absolutely.
Amazon did this really big study a long time ago. You can Google it where, like most people won't wait for more than a few seconds for a web page to load. That, like I try to make it so it's under 1. I get real mad if it's over 1 second. Especially if our team is involved, there are ways to minimize JavaScript, to have high enough quality hosting, to like make everything align. At least on my ultra fast internet, on my ultra fast computer, if it doesn't even load from me in under 1 second, then it's trash. It's absolute garbage.
So. My head keeps going back to something we were talking about a little bit ago about a website redesign. And I think part of the reason it's going back there is because that is part of my background, something that I used to do. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of websites and stuff I've redesigned. And, the client thinking, oh, we just need a new look and feel on this site. And I agreed with him back in those days. I mean, it's just because of the nature of what I did. I put new outfits on websites, so to speak, just to make it look different. But now I think it's so much more important to do these split tests that you're talking about, you know, and maximize your energy on that, and way before you do a redesign, because I've done redesigns and they take forever, and whereas you probably could implement 5 different split tests in the course of a week or two that are significantly going to help out the site much faster and better than it would over taking several months to redesign the thing.
Yeah. I'm always in the philosophy of optimizing what's there, unless what's there is just so bad.
Mm-hmm.
If it like because iterate, that's my philosophy. Or you can just learn a lot too. So if you're going to do a redesign, if you have that data, then you can make really intelligent decisions on the redesign.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're thinking about doing it immediately, start with CRO. And I think it's just like, don't hire it out until you're at to that point. You know, like people can still do, if they're making $20,000-$30,000 a month on their store, they can still perform CRO. It's just like, I don't recommend that they bring it to an agency yet, because it'll be not a guaranteed ROI. Like they might get charged, and then their store might not recoup that investment. So that's why I want to advise people to do a guaranteed good decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just a wise business move. Like if you're only at a certain level, like you need, and I get this 100%. You know, business owners and entrepreneurs need to wear many hats. I did for many years. I still do to a certain level, not like I used to. But you need to get into the weeds to a certain level to try to do some of this stuff yourself before you hire it out, if for nothing else, so you have somewhat of an understanding what advanced developers like yourself or production people like yourself are even talking about. You know, so you can actually say that you've done your best and you've tried to work through it yourself to solve a problem. And if you solve it, that's awesome. But, you know, if you can't, then you know, you need to get somebody with those expertise who does it day in and day out like you do. Yeah,
for sure. I'm always willing to answer questions, like when prospects or clients have them. I mean, even if they're to the level where we can work with them, because just bringing value to people is always a good thing. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because not everyone is to the point where they can spend the money on the CRO, but it's also like, even if they are to that point, you know, some people have their own devs and they want to try to do it. But my main thing is I just want to like help people improve their website. Like that's the bottom line. Like that's what I like doing with CRO. And it is like, it's a combination of like left brain, right brain. It's like very, like, you get to do some artistic things. You get to be creative, artistic, be, you know, anyways, but it's also like a science. It's like a, you know, for me, code's like a left brain thing where it's like logic based. It's very like, so I like that duality of like what CRO is. It's like the only thing out there that I can think of that is that, like that. So yeah, it's great. It's
awesome. Cool. Well, I don't think I have any more questions or stuff that we haven't covered. I think if we continue going on, we're just going to get off target, and there's so many other topics we need to discuss in other episodes and stuff. But man, Mike, thanks a lot for meeting me today here on the podcast. I appreciate your time. You're a busy man, juggling many different things, as we all are, and just continuing to make a difference in all of our clients' lives and businesses. We greatly appreciate everything that you do here, and man, hopefully you'll. Oh, you're welcome, bud. Hopefully you'll join me on some additional episodes here. I know the answer to that is yes, because that's kind of the whole point.
No way. Not happening.
Oh man.
No,
all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today. Hopefully that this episode is a little bit more insightful in some of the CRO services that we offer here at Impact, or just, not just offer, but just, things that we can educate people on how they can better convert prospects into customers. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Bye.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of the E-commerce Business Growth Podcast. We appreciate you. If you'd like to find out more information of what my agency does, you can go to thinkimpact.com. That's THINKIMPAKT. Thinkimpact.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.